Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome friends once again to this NPTEL module on health economics. This is one of the unique courses in economics. This is usually considered as an elective course. However, you can consider this as core as well as elective depending upon your choice. We conceptualize this module in 12 weeks. And this is our second week module. We have clearly thought of defining the demand in healthcare. We observe the differences in different articles, and based on readings of various books and articles, we have captured 5 important topics for discussion under this topic. Therefore, our first lecture is on utility and health. As we know that health is not possible. Health of a person is not considered to be or conceived to be the best unless we do not define the utility of consumption from various goods. Therefore, utility and health has huge relationship, and hence we can define our next lecture on demand for healthcare in detail. And accordingly, we will emphasize the modules on demand for healthcare. Therefore, some of the important learning goals we have set here are as follows. How do we get utility from our health? How do we change our preferences for consumption with changes in health? And also we will discuss about production function of health, special emphasis on medical care, disease and consumption, emphasizing on other goods. How other goods as a function of health or health along with other goods are actually defining the best utility to the consumer. And since we are discussing on production function of health, we will be emphasizing on how far production of health is actually based on the derived demand through the medical care products. Then last one is on in these specific objectives is to identify effects of different choices, especially our lifestyle choices. As you know that in the present time, with the complexity of consumption, we are juxtaposed with so many options, so many quick consumption bundles by which a person is eventually attached with some of the habits, some of the lifestyle choices that may derive bad health outcomes. Along with there are some basket of commodities in reality available which do derive positive outcomes. Therefore, how a person is in a life cycle is balancing his or her life is the most important challenge, and therefore, since complexities are there, we have different models to explain, to deal with those complexities. To start with, health is actually a good in the sense of good or bad. An economic good increases a person's utility, while the bad obviously decreases its utility or the person's utility. How do we think of health? Good or bad? We can cite some example and clarify. Like here we are saying which of us really enjoy getting weekly allergy injections or once in a lifetime sorts of yellow fever and hepatitis. Do you like when your dentist drill into a molar in your in your teeth? Do you like medicine pills, etc.? When we are consuming such type of products, what kind of reaction functions are there with the consumers? On the basis of that, we will prefer to go for some of the consumption basket. In a market where we pay for these above services, these healthcare services cannot be considered as good when we are supposed to be treated as a bad outcome of those consumption. These products in fact actually those bad products, economically bad products usually hurt the consumer and do not augment utility directly. Sometimes they even have bad side effects as well. Okay. So, sounds like a bad then a good commodity, as we have already mentioned. So, what really does create more utility for an individual, basically which adds happiness, and you know, as a consumer you really enjoy and you feel healthy out of your consumption, is basically called economic goods. So, the flow of services produced by the stock of health creates a flow of utility. However, for simplicity we can say that stock of health, here is the key, that is add utility. Okay? And in short, health is actually a stock variable. To start with, for a person carry certain degree of health, and how far the stock variable is added value or depreciates with value depends upon your choice of consumption and other environmental factors. Living humans have inherent stock of health. A normal healthy baby has a relatively high stock of health. Therefore, the life expectancy is measured at the time of birth, and later on it gets declined with the rise in age. An infant born prematurely with lung disease, the risk of brain damage and possible blindness has a very low initial stock of health. Almost every action we take for the rest of our lives affect the stock of health. So, the stock of health we are inborn with, we are blessed with, may not be kept as with that level of value in different walks of our life or different stages of our life. So, preference matters. Change in preference with health really matters. We start with an example at this moment. A person, maybe Pragya, likes ice cream very much. She prefers ice cream over healthy food, prepared at home on any typical day. We start with ice cream as an example. One day she got drenched in the rain on her way back from school. She fell ill and caught the fever. In her new state of sickness, would she still enjoy ice cream more than home cooked food? We are basically comparing ice cream as compared to the home based food or home cooked food, which are considered to be relatively healthy. Okay. If your answer is no, like we just say that would she still enjoy ice cream over home cooked food? If your answer is no, then what has actually changed? People change their preferences, of course, with the change in the state of health. Therefore, our next set of explanation will be health states. Health state dependence. On what is our health state dependence, we will actually clarify one by one. If an individual has a stock of health that we are mentioning here as H for your clarity, and consume all other goods that is noted here as X, let us call with a bundle U as a function of, or you can simply write down U as a function of X and H. X stands for your all other basket of commodities, and you are carrying with a stock of health. Okay. Now, to clarify our utility function further, we will explain in terms of two important concepts in health economics, that is called health state dependence or state independence. When shape of the utility function vary with health, it is called state dependence. Okay. When it is actually independent, when the shape of the utility function does not vary with health, okay, that is called health independence. Now, we have some of the references where different experts, faculties, professors have explained the health functions by considering X and that is other goods and health stock as a variable, how they are actually presenting. In some cases you will find H, that is a binary health variable. In some cases you will find that is multiplicative with the X function. In other cases you will find as a expected number of life years, and in the last one by Finkelstein in 2008 paper, especially we will be referring more of its our work, where the expected utility function is greatly explained. Okay. Especially emphasizing on health state variable in detail. Therefore, our explanation set of explanation will be emphasizing more on this. So, you can read, we have also given the year of their publication as well. Now, let us talk about the utility function in healthcare. Now here the health function is presented with the different set of other goods consumption. With the rise in consumption, our health function is obviously considered to be different, and it is considered to be upward sloping. Okay, u as a function of x. Okay, in this case we say in our function h2 is greater than that of h1, but one thing you please remember that we have already said there is a direct relationship between x and utility, but with the assumption that h is considered to be constant. Okay, and more consumption of other goods gives you more utility. Okay, monotonicity of references etc. are not emphasized at this moment. We are trying to just identify the relationship, and we will clarify what really happens when our consumption basket is poised with more good commodities and more or more of bad commodities. Now, as a typical microeconomics way model, we can also present health and other commodities as a basket of commodities in our bundle, and the choice function can be explained out of our relationship between u and x, u as a function of h and x. So, we can also present it. Now, if you remember very well in the indifference function, our purpose is to identify which combination of the bundle of commodities that give the best level of satisfaction to the consumer. Now, indifference curve states that all points or all combination of products on the same utilities basket or on the utility map on the same indifference curve is considered to derive equal level of satisfaction. Therefore, you can read between the line here, we have mentioned very well h1 h2, that means this point x1 h2 this one I am just highlighting over here is equivalent to x2 h1. Okay. Now, we are compromising with since given our budget etc., we have to allocate our resources. So, the level of healthcare and if you are affording more on other consumption, you cannot able to spend more on healthcare products. Maybe healthcare products, you are investing on healthcare related products, maybe for gym, maybe related to good quality food as well, which is directly connected to health. Of course, we are considering that in X commodities as well, but here H is actually combining with all sort of products which are directly connected with the health basket, okay, or medical related products etc. So, either you are extending more of X at the cost of this one or vice versa. When you have higher budget, you will obviously shifting your choice function or the level of satisfaction to higher point. Okay, that is why it is highlighted with S2 H2, which is reflecting with higher level of satisfaction to the consumer. Now, what do you mean by health state dependence? We have already said as a function of healthcare. Here I have already mentioned, once again I am just clarifying it with you. When your utility function vary with health, change with health, basically you are having certain level of dependence with your choice functions. Okay. So, accordingly as a consumer, as a member in the household, we are supposed to allocate the products accordingly for the best desired results. So, health state dependence, especially we are referring with the Finkelstein paper 2009. In short, we are mentioning as HSD, health state dependence, who has actually analyzed the effect of health on non-medical consumption. Okay, non-medical consumption. There are two signs of health dependence we will be emphasizing in detail. One is called negative health dependence and another is called positive health dependence. Then what is this? Let us start with the negative health dependence. So, the negative one is the one where the marginal utility of your consumption could decline with deteriorating health. Okay. When your marginal utility is actually declining or could decline with the deteriorating health conditions, or marginal utility of consumption increases with increasing health, as many consumption goods such as travel, or like and in other complements of good health. So, with health it declines, with other consumption actually it helps in increasing the case. Now, coming to the positive health dependence, it simply explains that the marginal utility of consumption could increase with deteriorating health. That is basically called positive health state dependence, or marginal utility of consumption decreases with increasing health as other consumption goods such as prepared meals or assistant with self care may be substitute of other health. We will clarify all sort of things here. Once again, what is called negative health state dependence and what is called positive health state dependence. We are actually emphasizing on Finkelstein et al. Paper 2008. So, the source is also referred here. To start with, we have highlighted here that our utility function is positively linked with your consumption basket. So, consumption we are referred to as X, is not it, which we have already mentioned. Now, to emphasize further, we have cited two real cases. One is called hospital visit, another is called nursing facility at home. The first diagram is related to hospital visit. Okay. Second one is in nursing facilities at home, NH, let it be NH. So, in the first case, it is it is called negative health state dependence. I will clarify why. The relationship between the marginal change in the utility basket with respect to the consumption actually declines, or with sickness, level of sickness actually declines. How is it so? First of all, we clarify that your what is this? Your utility function for good health, its elasticities are different, your changes or slopes are very different. You mark this difference very clearly. This is utility when in good health, you are spending in good health. Whereas, the utility when you are spending when you are in poor health, like your utility you derive actually a person derives when the person spending in different commodities, which I just said, yes it matters, but depends upon which kind of commodity you are spending, and also depends upon which state you are in, which health conditions you are in. If you are carrying with a good health, the same basket might be reflecting with different utilities. If you are carrying with a bad state, your reactions or the derived utility might be different. Okay, that is why it is very research version. Therefore, for your clarity, we have cited two examples. One is called hospital visit. Therefore, in the caption we have mentioned with sickness. In both the case with sickness, the person is in a good health condition. Okay. In that case, the incremental change in the utility for the person when having a good health actually increases better than that of the person already carrying with a bad health, when it is mandatory for the person to consult the healthcare from a institutional facility. Okay. Therefore, the gap increases. This gap initially is this is this, and gap between these two is much higher. And when I am in good health, it is quite obvious that I will prefer to consult my diseases in a certified hospital, and I will directly meet there, even on the way I will enjoy my movement. Okay. Therefore, my marginal utility is actually though marginality in a good health increases whereas bad health increases differently, declines differently. In both the case marginality declines, the rate of change declines, but the net gap is the crux here to explain the health state dependence. The net change is actually, look at the change with respect to the consumption. This is inversely related. Okay, the marginal these change, the change now we have highlighted the gap increases. This change is higher, whereas the consumption okay, the gap increases, and therefore we say that actually the marginal utility derives with sickness declines. When you have you are carrying with certain sickness, your marginal utility actually declines. Where in another case, that is in panel B, we are referring to nursing facility. Okay. So in case of nursing facility, with sickness it is really a bit contrast. The marginal utility in that case, you are carrying with a bad health. Now we are actually referring with sickness as a state, the emphasis on sickness. Okay. Now we are, if you are comparing with just consumption, you might be confused, but sickness, if is your state of health, then your choice function for healthcare or for any other basket of commodities is reflecting differently. In this case, when you are carrying a sickness and somebody is facilitating you in your home, okay, your marginal utility actually increases. Okay. So therefore we say, when your utility function, the change is actually is quite visible, that gap decreases. Okay. In that case, with a good health, somebody will not prefer to get it served in home, okay, in the case B. But if you are carrying with a sickness or with bad health, obviously will prefer that somebody should provide to your bed or within your home. What we wanted to mention that health stage dependence in this case actually increases. Okay. So then in short, what is this all about? Not necessarily health state is same for all the cases. There might be different economic good, there might be healthcare goods might be different as well. Okay. Broadly we are defining two type of healthcare goods here. One is called, which is reflecting, called negative health state dependence, and another is called positive health dependence. In short, it is a function of sickness. Given your state of health sickness, then your choice function are different, and in one case increases, in another case actually decreases. Okay. So you can further validate with our another EG example from you can plot it on your own with this kind of example. Here we have tried to identify negative health state dependence. So we started with marginality when somebody is sick and the marginality when somebody is healthy, with different basket of commodities. For insert we have cited only 6 basket. Of course, the marginality to start with will be higher in case somebody is carrying a good health. Now, yes, the incremental change we have highlighted with equal amount. However, in the total health case, you will find a measured change. The gap actually increases. Okay. Of course, in the marginal case, the health state dependence will be different. Okay, in the healthy as well as unhealthy cases. In total utility cases also the gap increases. Okay. So that is emphasized in our previous slide as well. So the marginal utility of consumption increases with health, that basically called negative health state dependence. And if the difference in utility increases with consumption, we refer to the phenomenon is called negative health dependence. When the difference or the gap increases, that is precisely called negative health dependence, and that is a serious concern in our healthcare products. What to be produced, what to be supplied in the market, how it should be catering to the patients. Okay. So that is one of the core issue you can take up in your research or you can take up in your intensive, wherever you are pursuing, will be very helpful. Hence, negative health dependence is clarified with marginal utility of consumption increases with health, whereas and second case marginal utility of consumption decreases with sickness. Okay. So your consumption actually decreases with sickness, which we have highlighted in our diagram. Both the cases are cited in the case of health state dependence. So the negative state dependence can also be validated with the equation simply. First you check with the first order derivative du by dx. Then if you can you check with your d by dh with the cross sectional changes with these. This is with respect to your marginal utility as simple. Whereas, when you compare with your health changes, start with a health, what happens when health is different, you compare with a with respect to your health, you will actually find the change. When it is actually rising, the gap increases with respect to health, that is precisely called negative health dependence. It seems to be different contrast. In your mind it might come as it's if the it's if it had it been with less than 0 would have been negative. Actually it is not the case. We have taken h here is your second order derivative. Okay. So, in that case, when the gap increases with a state health state h, that is actually called negative health dependence. So, statement all three are explaining the negative health dependence, whereas just the reverse is true, we have highlighted in this case. You can refer in panel B, that was valid in a panel B case. Okay. Okay, now come to some of the examples. You will also get other examples in your assignment. I am sure assignment will be very good for you to clarify things better. At this moment we have given some models, some equations, functional forms of healthcare, where we have taken health with other commodities. You can identify which one is called positive health state dependence and which one is called negative health dependence. First of all, in this case, what you can do when this is your equation, you can simply take first order derivative du d by dx, okay, dx here. So, of this function u then it's basically d by dx of a plus bh of x, isn't it? When you take the first order derivative of this, the result will be a plus bh. You cross check with your 12th level derivative functions. Then this is your first change we have obtained. Now the crux is here, you are supposed to take the health state, you are not just supposed to take the with respect to the consumption. If you are taking consumption, you are explaining precisely your utility function, which the standard microeconomics theory emphasize. But here in health economics, we are supposed to attach or connote with health state. So, the next function should be equal to d by d h with respect to health. So, this is left now at this moment with us. So, a plus bh. Now, what we do, you will find b is the answer. In this case, plus b is the answer. Okay. So, b, depending upon the value of b, usually we considered as a positive coefficient. So, it is positive, as simple as that, if v is positive. So, when it is positive, what is the answer? You can easily guess. This is clearly explaining that we are going by, or this example or this kind of model explains negative health dependence. Okay. So, or HSD, health state dependence, negative health state dependence. Alright. So, negative health state dependence. Similarly, all other example you can easily clarify. Therefore, broadly speaking, we start with health to categorize whether person start with a good health as 1 as a binary indicator, or start with a 0 as the sick person, and accordingly your interpretations are going to be different. Alright. So far we have discussed about utility and health subject to the state of the person, state of health of the person. Now, as I already mentioned from the HSD, health state dependence models, medical care products has to be produced in a society depending upon the health state dependence framework. So, where does health come from? After an illness we can produce health, or at least restore part of it by using medical care. So, medical care is simply a set of activities designed to restore or augment the stock of health. The production of automobiles, etc., like we say for production functions similarly, but in healthcare similarly we can define the healthcare production function. It is actually derived based on our state of health. Okay. So, medical product like automobile products are also derived based on different its parts. Okay. Like steel, plastic, labor, tire chips, these are also demanded. Accordingly, medical products are also automobile products are also produced. Similarly, in healthcare products are actually function of your medical care. So, we have mentioned H as a function of M, that precisely explaining medical care. Health outcomes also depends on the disease profile of the person, a person carries, and does the productivity of medical care which I have said. So, it is not just M, we have to also attach with D. Okay. So, now again, how to explain our function, health production function, not just production function, that not exactly the typical production function we should have. It depends upon the caring disease level, the disease level or the starting health state, or the type of products being to be sold in the market, depending upon the state of disease at that level in an economy or in a country. So, here we have highlighted disease 1, disease 2 and disease 3. The disease 1 case we are citing with allergies or asthma kind, whereas disease 2 is a broken arm, and disease 3rd type and its production function or the health production function is a simple common cold type. You can now easily guess where should be the starting stock of health. When it is a common cold 3rd case, the stock of health is considered to be much higher because it is a common cold level. And whereas allergic disease 1 we have said here, where in the third case, the second case, it is a broken arm, it is a serious case comparative to other two. Therefore, it's the stock of health is considered to be compromised, and accordingly the slopes of the health function, the production function is considered to be different. Now, you just see when somebody is carrying with the disease 1, the disease 1 does not make the individual terribly sick initially without medical intervention. However, the medical care offers some help in healing and eventually reaching a near plateau level, and hardly any further expectations are required. Therefore, there is a possibility of stagnancy in that supply function itself. Okay. Elasticity accordingly, etc., we will be also mentioning in our model in our course. So, similarly, the nature of change in the production function are considered to be different in different examples. Common cold, similarly, the changes are slightly different than in case of the disease 1, that is asthma and allergic conditions. Okay. Whereas a broken arm, it requires a major support throughout. Okay. Therefore, the function is different. You can just mark the changes. Okay. All right. And now, for almost every possible medical intervention, there reaches some point at which the incremental productivity or the marginal productivity of medical care will fall very low or possibly even become negative. At the point where marginal product falls to 0, the health versus medical care plot flattens out completely. The plot which I have said almost flattened out, where the marginal productivity actually near 0. Okay. That means the product and its production as per the type of disease considered to be non-necessary in the society, and considered to be its relevance for the society is considered to be 0. Okay. The marginal change is considered to be 0. All right. So, now we are explaining the complete model of consumption and health, citing again once again with the other commodities and medical product. Okay. So, X stands for other goods and M stands for the medical goods. Here again we need to define that what is this X, is it a good commodity or bad commodity. Our lifestyle, actually choice of healthcare, directly or indirectly affect our health depending upon your choice of goods you are consuming. Okay, positive good or negative good. We will be also using generalized form of this concept of production of health in Grossman model of demand for health, where Grossman considered as an asset, as a capital to start with, in the production function. We will be discussing in our successive chapters. Now, in this case, a person used to carry a health state, but has to experience different health stock at a different lifetime. Okay. Therefore, the life cycle is different depending upon the different complications of the person in different time period from birth to the entire life. Okay. The plot of the individual health stock over time is shown in this figure, which I have already mentioned. This plot rises during childhood and gradually declines due to the aging over time. In between, it has some random health shocks like illness, injuries, different level of injuries. I think you can easily note these injuries are more complicated. Therefore, the health stock is highly compromised, and it at the bottom of the ladder of her life cycle for the health. And medical care forms an important part of the process of restoring health after such events. Therefore, insurance etc. actually dealt in different life cycles differently. Age minimum health stock has been also reached once we are actually addressing or reaching a different age level with different catastrophes or different health conditions. So, age at some critical level, that is age minimum, once it is crossed, the person actually dies. So, this is all about the life cycle of the person related to health. So, stock of health depreciates, as we have already seen, like durable goods. Increased life expectancy implies depreciation rate of people's stock actually has slowed down over time. These measures like I mean to increase health, like vaccinations, sanitation drive etc., or important checkpoint for your health. Similarly, some examples we have cited here, like obesity, tobacco use, alcohol use, that really attach to person's health and derive at the bottom level of your minimum stock of health. It might attaches the persons to or bring down the persons towards the minimum stock of health. Okay. Now, we have taken the example and we compare with the utility level. The leading causes of death in US particularly cited in 2000 time, as this is related to unhealthy food habits. Tobacco related deaths were too huge, 4,35,000 deaths, nearly 18.1%, which is very huge. Poor diet and physical inactivity, around 4 lakh deaths, that accounts for 16.6%. Alcohol consumption etc. 85,000 deaths, that accounts for 3.5% as per the US data, as the author observed. We can also do research on our own in this regard as well. Similarly, another consequences of our inactivity etc. or poor diet conditions etc. lead to obesity. So, from the figure we can find out between 1990 1990 and 2000, you can get the change in this diagram as well. This there is rapid increase in death due to poor diet and physical inactivity. So, largely we have explained obesity has a strong effect on various forms of morbidity as well, and that may lead to like mortality or morbidity. Obesity is a strong association with diabetes, many other morbid disease such as cancer, heart disease, gallbladder etc. What underlying economic phenomena might cause this obesity epidemic etc. is actually explained. Similarly, technological change is another important aspect of production of health. Increased marginal productivity of workers leads to fall in calories burned in a day to day life or in a day. Jobs have become more sedentary type and less strenuous. Increase value of time makes it more expensive to burn calories. Similarly, cost of acquiring calories have been have fallen because of technological improvements in the agriculture sector etc. Increased value of time also leads to more people to shift to fast food alternatives than compared to the better food. Often the consumption basket overloaded with fat or over calorie based products, which is actually problematic for the human body. Similarly, other references we have cited, you can read. Similarly, transportation choices, factors, gasoline prices. Higher gasoline prices might cause weight loss. Primarily, people begin to shift to mass transit from personal driving, which entail more walking, etc. So there are indirect way of understanding healthcare. Some researchers have already derived important dimensions you can follow, I am sure. Similarly, tobacco and health I am not emphasizing, and you may read on your own. Okay. Now, based on all sort of things, some of the other facts from the GATS data 2016-17 report, you can see users without formal schooling and their tobacco use data with education, etc. in Indian context is presented in this data. Okay. So, users without formal schooling, users with less than primary education, then users with primary but less than secondary education. Now, you can easily see the with education has a positive role. Education actually helps in declining the rate. Okay. Inverse relationship is observed, education with tobacco use, etc. And accordingly, there are important implications, and you please have a read and you will enjoy these examples. Alcohol is another massive consumption in different parts of the country, and that is also explained over here. I am not reading between the line, I think it will be useful for you to read. Education and health we have already mentioned in our previous slide. So, obesity declines with education derived in different papers. Okay. So, propensity to undertake regular exercise rises with education level as derived by some authors. People with a high discount rate, those who opt for immediate pleasure rather than investing in the future, will not only opt against investment in education, but will also engage in fewer health producing behavior. So, etc. I think I should not mention all details for you. One other direction related to obesity, etc. One of the indicators is through BMI. BMI usually considered is the important parameter, prevalence of overweight, etc. BMI greater than 25 is considered as overweight, where obesity once it crosses 30 as per the WHO standard, and that is among the US adults as measured mentioned in this book. You can also cross check with the WHO parameters for Asian standards, that is little different. Okay. Especially in the study of BRICS countries, it was found that education attainment has a negative influence on obesity. So, education is most effective in this case, and effect is even higher for female rather than males. And it has a cyclical relationship. You can it has reverse causality as well. Health affects education, education affects health. Therefore, investment on both are required. It will derive better result for the society. So, in short, what we have discussed about the state of the health of the person. We derive utility, of course, from our consumption of different commodities, but it depends upon a carrying capacity of the person who is consuming what. Okay. If person is actually healthy, of course, the consumption basket is going to be blissful and will derive more better utilities. Hence, we derive in our chapter called health state dependence. In short, when it is with respect to health or sickness, if the marginal utility changes differently, you can present. If the secondary derivative is positive, we have already mentioned that the incremental change is positive with respect to your sickness, therefore, it is deriving negative health state dependence. Okay. So, so be careful about while reading, and accordingly we will set questions. We have also cited different lifestyle patterns which is adding to negative health state dependence. I think should also go through our assignments, and in the next chapter we'll be discussing very clearly on the demand curve for healthcare products. How is it really downward sloping? What are the different evidences through randomized experiments from different scholars will be emphasized in our next lecture. So, please read the chapters we have mentioned by this Phelps Charles, and most importantly the papers from et al. Finkelstein et al. Papers, and we have also referred in our work. With this, I think I should stop here. I will look forward for your attendance in the next one. Thank you.